Keenan Sweeney. I'm an admissions consultant with Accepted. It's great to be with you here today. Thank you for your patience as we got started. Here today and excited to talk to you about how to choose the right MBA. We'll talk through a brief presentation and then I'll try to answer as many questions as possible. So looking forward to talking with all of you. Thank you. Okay, so choosing the best MBA program for you. I know this is one of the things that you'll be thinking about as you go into perhaps the next admission cycle. I imagine most of you are thinking about applying next year, but if for those of you who are already in the process, maybe you're thinking about expanding your list. So hopefully this session will help you sort of examine what schools to be thinking about and how best to put together your application. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, again, my name is Kara Keenan Sweeney. I'm a former director of admissions at Wharton's Lauder program. If you're not familiar with Lauder, it's a joint degree in international studies with Wharton. I was there for about 8 years. It was an awesome experience. I really loved working there and getting to review both Wharton and Lauder applications. Prior to that, I spent many years in MBA admissions at Columbia Business School, INSEAD, as well as Penn State. So I have about 15 or so years of admissions committee experience across multiple institutions for executive MBA, full-time MBA, as well as other graduate programs. After I left Lauder, I worked for a bit of time as a campus recruiter at McKinsey & Company. So happy to answer questions about sort of how to position your application to gain admission and then hopefully make the transition to perhaps consulting or other industries as well. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where to start with your MBA search. In this presentation, we'll sort of take things from a big picture view, and then we'll talk a little bit more specifically about the criteria that you should be thinking about. We'll talk about how to determine your competitiveness for the MBA application, and then ultimately, hopefully get accepted. And at the very end of the conversation, again, happy to answer your questions one-on-one and talk a little bit about what we do as admissions consultants at Accepted. So where should you start in your search? So the first thing you'll want to do is determine what you're looking for from an MBA and what you need from an MBA experience. And that's really different for everybody. I think a lot of applicants, their primary focus sometimes is becoming very fixated on getting into the quote unquote best school. And I really encourage you to step back and think beyond some of the top schools. Of course, they're amazing, any of the schools in the M7, so to speak. But there's amazing institutions and awesome MBA programs beyond the top 10, 15, and even 20, 25, of course, programs. So think about things from a big picture view. You may have your dream school, but think about, is this really where I want to be geographically? Is this really the best fit for me? Do I want to be at a big school or a small school? And then you want to think about how your profile stacks up and what you might need to do to help improve your application overall. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but ultimately it's sort of thinking about what you need from an MBA program and what you want, and thinking about it from more of a macro level, at least to start. And then, of course, you're going to determine the competitiveness of your own profile. As you do your research, as you go through the process, you want to make sure you do as much research as possible. You may think you know everything there is to know about Harvard or Stanford or the University of Michigan, but there's always more to learn. And you can learn so much from joining their events and reviewing their websites and things like that. And that will really help you determine the competitiveness of your own profile. So let's talk about some of the things, and this is not obviously an exhaustive list, but there's 7 or 8 things of what you might want to think about as you start to think what you're looking for from an MBA and what really will help you reach your goals. And so many people are looking at an MBA for different reasons. And I should also mention, I imagine a lot of the folks here are interested in full-time MBA programs, but there are amazing part-time, hybrid, online, executive MBA. There's so many different formats now, one-year MBA programs. Along with encouraging you to kind of step back beyond the maybe obvious choices for your MBA, I would also encourage you to think about what format of the MBA is best suited for you. Depending on your years of work experience, are you looking for an internship? Are you looking to go right back into the same field? Then maybe a one-year MBA program is right for you. So along with sort of your research and what you're looking at, think about all the different programs that are offered and what's really best for you. So talking about some of that and specifically related to the schools that you're interested in, obviously for most people, the first and foremost thing is the program's alignment with your career goals. If you're somebody, for example, who's looking to make a dramatic switch from maybe, let's say, technology to consulting, then presumably you want to pursue a program that's really going to have a strength and emphasis on consulting recruiting and an education that will help you and career resources that will help you make that pivot to consulting. So prioritize the programs that, based on your research, can help you achieve the goals that you're looking to from a professional perspective. You can go to their websites and download their career reports. That's a great way to sort of see what are the outcomes, the specific outcomes for people who have graduated from these programs, or where have they done their internships? What are the average salaries? Where do they end up geographically? There's so much really helpful information in those resources. So I encourage you to start with the career resources at the schools that you're interested in and sort of take it from there and think about, will this program offer me what I need from a career perspective? Second, and certainly not in this order, but the academics that are offered. Most MBA programs will give you a foundational core curriculum. That depends. Some one-year programs will sort of bypass the core curriculum and let you go right into sort of a major or elective. So again, thinking back to the format of the program and what suits you, you'll want to think about the academics. Does this program have a strength in marketing, operations, finance? Most top MBA programs will really have a strength across multiple areas. But again, if you're looking to make a change or you're really focused on entrepreneurship and you really want to spend 2 years at an MBA program that will allow you to really do a deep dive from that perspective, focus on programs that will offer you those sorts of things from an academic perspective. Look at the professors, the research that they've done. There's so many great resources, obviously through their websites, but on LinkedIn, follow the institutions that you're interested in, the faculty that work for those MBA programs, to really get a sense as to, is this can help you determine fit overall, is really what you're thinking about. For other students, an applicant as sort of, something they feel they really need to have for the rest of their career, but maybe they're going to go right back into finance or consulting or their same industry. So the academics and the career goals are important, but perhaps the student experience is really the most important thing for you. So take a look at clubs, activities, which extracurricular or opportunities are available to you, and how important is that for you. For others, and I know I hear this a lot from our clients who are international, brand is a big focus. So do some research on brand. Is the school well known maybe in your part of the world? Would it be better for you to pursue a program that has greater brand recognition or awareness, depending on what you're from, or perhaps in a certain industry? So think through that as well. Your environment and personal experience. I so often ask our clients when they say, well, I really want to get into Wharton or I really want to get into Stanford. I'll say, well, do you want to live in Philadelphia? Do you want to live in California? Where would you like to be geographically? Would you like a small program or a large program? Are you looking to really focus on your network over the 2 years or 1 year of the program? There are so many different things that you'll want to think about. Each program will offer its own unique culture. And you'll really want to investigate and get to learn if that's really the right fit and culture for you. And geography and where you are geographically located can make a big difference in that. It also impacts the cost of living. If you're somebody who's financing your own MBA, of course, New York City or San Francisco will be more expensive than maybe the University of Virginia's Darden program, which could be a great option for you and might not necessarily be in your top 1 or 2 programs, but something you may want to add to the list, because really when you think about it, you would actually like to be in a smaller college town versus a big city. And of course, any other personal factors. Some of our students, when I was working through different programs, are coming with families, or again, are coming internationally. There could be so many different factors that you want to think about. What will this experience be like for me as an international student, or for me bringing a family? And research what the schools have as far as, is there a family club? Are there different activities that will support me as I go through my time in the program? So what we recommend doing as you're sort of thinking about all of these different criteria and what matters most to you is come up with your list of 5, 7, 8 things that are really important to you, and examine your list, categorize your list as to whether they're essential. Absolutely, you need to be in a big city, for example, important, nice to have, or not important. And this is a great way to sort of help you evaluate how important are all these criteria for me. The most important thing for me is my career opportunities and the academic experience. The city, the class activities, the size of the class might not be as important. So start to categorize what's really important to you. And we've just done sort of an example spreadsheet to kind of help you get started thinking about that. So, for example, we have brand, careers. There's a focus on product management, for example. The city setting, again, if you want to be in a city or a suburb or more of a rural environment. Is there an entrepreneurship center on campus? If you're somebody who, for example, the students who came to the Wharton Lauder program were obviously very interested in doing like a dual degree, a joint degree. If you're somebody who really would like to gain some experience in education, is there a partner school that you can take some courses at? Things like that. So again, sort of thinking through your list of what's important and categorizing it as to how important those specific factors are for you. And then, of course, as you go through your list, eliminating perhaps the things that really aren't essential for you may help you kind of get down to a list of schools that are really the right fit for you ultimately. So you have kind of your list. Now you're thinking about the things that really matter to you, the things that you value, and how important they are as you go through. Of course, now you want to think about which programs you're interested in and how they stack up as far as the different categories that you've created for yourself. So again, sort of a spreadsheet thinking about this. The clients that I've worked with that have been, I think, very organized and most successful as they've gone through the application process. Of course, most people are applying to multiple schools. Starting with a spreadsheet like this at the very beginning of your process can really be helpful because you're really starting from scratch. You're thinking about what's important to you, how important. You have your list of schools, and then as you get further on in the process, you can start to even drill down more. What do I need to include in my essays? What's important at these schools? What courses are offered? So starting with a spreadsheet like this from scratch can really help you as you go through the whole process and experience of applying to business school. Okay, so now you're thinking, let me come up with my list of schools. I've decided what's important to me, how important these factors are. And I can't emphasize this enough. And it seems like such an obvious thing, but you would be surprised the number of people I talk to that don't do sort of the initial research on the programs. Again, we may think we know everything there is to know about Harvard Business School or another program that's very well known. But really, as you go to the websites, you start reading their social media, their marketing, you download their career report, you take a look at their faculty offerings, you'll start to learn really what this program is about. What can I expect as I go through this 1 or 2 or part-time executive MBA program? And starting with these events, as obvious as it may seem, it's such a great place to start. Virtual events, excuse me, are the easiest way to get engaged. Following student blogs, watching their YouTube channel, getting involved as much as you can for early on to learn about the culture and the fit of the program, I think is really important. If you have the opportunity to visit in person or on campus, that's great as well. In a perfect world, you can go to visit all the programs that you're interested in, to sit in on a class, to experience what it's like to be a student, to talk with current students. One thing I want to mention is for most programs, it doesn't necessarily impact your outcome as far as your application, especially if you're looking at like a large program that has tons and tons of applications. But it's really thinking about it through the lens of what's helpful for you. Will this program really, will I have a good experience here? I want to encourage you to be less focused on gaining admission and think a little bit more about what will this really mean? You know, it's like getting your dream car. Well, will I really love this dream car when I get it? Is this the most practical car to have? Is this the best thing that's going to be a return on my investment? So participating in all of these events and really getting to know the programs from a real granular level can help you certainly shape your list and ultimately inform your decision to make sure that you're really happy in the long term. Okay, so we have your list of things that are important, how essential they are, and of course now maybe the 3 or 4 or 5 schools, however many schools that you're interested in. And then think about how these programs match up against the things that are really important to you? Well, after looking at X school, actually, they don't offer the things I'm really interested in. I'm really keen to get to take a lot of electives, and this program, really, in the first year, I won't have the opportunity to do that. Whatever the case may be, the things that are really important to you, stack up how those schools look at how those schools stack up against your own criteria. And then, of course, you may see, oh, as I mentioned, this school really falls short. This isn't really where it will be the best fit for me. And then you'll start to eliminate that. And maybe the programs that you're interested in will come together and crystallize a little more clearly for you. Okay, so you have your list of everything that is important. You have your schools, you're ready to go. And now you're starting to think, how do I stack up against this? So there's really two ways to think about your own application, your own profile for the schools that you're interested in. It's both, are you qualified? Do you have do you hit sort of the basics for that program? Are you in the range of their GMAT or GRE score? How do you stack up against their class profile? And you checking the box there in some cases. Okay, I have my bachelor's degree. I have 5 years of work experience. I have a good standardized test score. And that's one aspect, but are you competitive among the pool of folks that are applying to the program? And that's a little more nuanced. That's, as we say, more of an art than a science. So often folks will come to us and say, well, can you tell me where I'll get in? And it's really hard to do that until you've really put together your application. You've told us everything about yourself, your profile, what you can bring that's unique to a program. There are so many things about you that don't translate just to a GMAT, GRE score, or GPA. So again, as I've said, sort of encouraging you to think about your research for MBA programs at more of a macro level. Think about your profile beyond the obvious statistics and really what you can bring. Well, actually, I've had this unique experience in starting my own business, or I was really involved in a volunteer project, or I put myself through college. I mean, there's so many different things that make you, you. And those are the things that sort of intangibles that you will bring out in your application that will ultimately change you or elevate your application from being qualified to being competitive. Another thing I'll encourage our clients to do is kind of categorize the schools that you're interested in into three areas. Maybe if you were applying as an undergraduate back in high school, you were thinking, okay, I have my dream school, my reach school, a school that I feel pretty confident I can get into, and my safety school. And it's kind of the same thing with an MBA program. And of course, but that all depends on you. If you feel like you only want to do an MBA program if it's at this or this school, then okay, you're putting your effort and your focus on your reach schools or your dream schools. But if you're really keen to do an MBA, I encourage you to expand your list beyond the top one or two programs that you're hoping to get into, and think more widely. Are there other programs out there that would be a great fit for me that I would be thrilled to get into? And having kind of a wider list and categorizing the schools that you're interested into these three areas can really help. One thing I'll say about a reach school, it's sort of, or your dream school, it's having sort of check the box on the things that are really important to those schools, or the things that they really call out in their class profile, for example. But then, of course, taking it to the next level, again, through your application, through your essays, through perhaps your interview or other aspects of your application. For an on-par application, it's like you have everything that they are looking for, but you still need to really work hard to put together a strong application. And then a safety school is something that where you look at all of the criteria, you're thinking, well, actually, all of my stats are maybe above, kind of their median range, for example. And so in that case, maybe it's more of a slam dunk for you to get into that program. So evaluating how you stack up against those programs, again, I mentioned the class profile. That's a great place to start to see, what are the GMAT GRE scores? What are the GPAs? That's one category. But take a look at work experience. Where are students coming from? How many years of work experience do they have? Is this a school that really focuses on leadership experience? What sort of experiences have you had that have made you really unique? For example, the Lauder program, having international experience speaking other languages, that was really important. Every school has their things that they really love to see in their applicants. And usually you can sort of distill that from their website, from the information that they share. And those are things that you will want to bring into your application. There are things that you can always you can't always sort of count on. If you're coming from a pool that's overrepresented or underrepresented, different things like that can impact your application. But again, it's sort of as you think about your application beyond the most obvious stats, it's what you can bring from your profile that makes you special, that makes you unique. One of the things we have our clients do as they go through the process of working with admissions consultant is we have them fill out a biography where we ask you to tell us basically everything about your life, where you grew up, what kind of family you came from, what part of the world you grew up in, what were the circumstances, where you went to college, did you work through school, what was your jobs experiences like, and then within that, what kind of leadership experiences have you had, what are the challenges that you faced, and through that, so often I'll talk to candidates and they'll say, well, I haven't really done anything amazing, or my application or my profile is boring. And then we look through everything that they've shared with us, and you think, this is amazing. You've had incredible experiences. There's so much to bring out from your profile to your application. So that's kind of the special part that is intangible that we can't always tell you, these are the things you need to focus on. But that's really an important part, putting together a strong application and ultimately, hopefully getting acceptance to the program that you're interested in. So as you finalize your spreadsheet, the things that matter to you, the schools that you're interested in, you've taken a look at if you're competitive for a school, if you're qualified, how your application stacks up, and then you've sort of categorized each program into, is this a reach school for me? Do I feel confident I can get into this program? Or is it really, I feel really, really confident I can get in? So bring together your spreadsheet as you wrap up your research. Sort of looking at everything through this final scope will help you, I think, get to your ultimate final list of schools. So that's really most of our presentation. I did want to spend just a moment or two telling you a little bit about Accepted. So if you're not familiar with Accepted, I'm an admissions consultant. I joined a little earlier this year. I have previously worked with Accepted when I was the director of admissions marketing and financial aid at Lauder. Our founder, Linda Abraham, she would interview me every year for a great podcast. So I'm so excited to be working with Accepted and helping applicants gain admission. The program, or Accepted rather, has been around for 30 years. Everybody who is one of our admissions consultants for our MBA division is a former admissions committee member. With altogether, we have over 70 years of experience total. Our sort of ethos is to really give you an individualized approach to your application, to help you see your strengths, to help you bring out things in your application you may not necessarily have thought of, thinking about your story, and ultimately helping you reach your goals. In terms of how our services work, we offer comprehensive services as well as hourly options. That's pretty standard for most consulting companies. And we can help you on everything from your interview preparation, reviewing your resume, helping you iterate on your essays to make sure they're in perfect shape before you ultimately submit your applications. One last thing is we have a ton of free resources on our website. We have a great MBA blog where we post articles at least once a week. Some of those are really important because they give you tips on how to approach your essays for the different schools that you're interested in. We have a great podcast. As I mentioned, I'm a former participant on Linda's podcast. She interviews directors of admission across all different programs around the world, where you can really hear from the horse's mouth as to what they're looking for in your application. We have sample essays, different guides, MBA guides as well. And you can always sign up for a free consultation. We offer 30-minute consultations to anybody who's interested. And of course, you can just go to our website at accepted.com to learn more. So I hope that was helpful. I hope I didn't go too fast for everybody. And of course, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them now. Okay. So I'm going to go back up to the top, and I think you're putting your questions here in the comments. So I'll do my best to answer as many as possible. Okay, there's a great question about sort of the differences in part-time MBA, executive MBA. Do they also help with career progression? Do they have career services? It really depends on the school. When I worked at Columbia Business School, this is way back when, almost 20 years ago, they started career services specifically for executive MBA. And they were part of the wider career management center at Columbia. And a lot of the folks are actually still there helping executive MBA students reach their goals. So there absolutely can be at certain schools. I would take a look at their website, see what sort of offerings they have from a career perspective for part-time and executive MBA students. But I would say in most cases, yes. At the very least, you'll have access to a career management center or office where you can work with a career coach. They can help you navigate what you're looking to do. You'll have access to a job board. So there should absolutely be resources for you. Some may have offerings that are more specialized to programs versus another. So take a look, do a little bit of research and see. I have another question from Tammy. Do we have an MBA cohort for spring intake? Is it advisable to target the same? And what are the timelines? So it really depends on the school that you're looking at. Most US two-year MBA programs will have a few rounds of admission. Some have 3, some have 4, depends on the school. In most cases, for example, let's take Wharton. Most applicants will apply in either rounds 1 or 2. There is really no advantage to one versus another. So in that case, there's a September deadline or a January deadline. In round 3, we tended to see the least number of applications. And for those individuals who were successful in round 3, it tended to be people with maybe let's say unusual circumstances or special circumstances. For example, maybe they were serving in the military and they couldn't submit their application until round 3 because their military service was wrapping up or something along those lines. So most people will apply in rounds 1 or 2, and we generally encourage you to apply in the earlier rounds versus at the end when they're probably just about wrapping up their class for the year. Question, if I have a GRE score on the lowest range, is there a chance I can still get accepted? So again, talking a little bit about thinking of your profile from an overall perspective. You'll hear from admissions committees time and time again. We're looking for a holistic review. We will do a holistic review of your application. And this means that something like a GRE score, even if it's on the lower range, most likely won't make or break your application one way or another. Even if you're at the lower range, they'll want to see, okay, well, maybe you had a great GPA. Maybe you're working in a highly quantitative field, which would help to offset, a lower GRE score. Maybe there's some other aspects of your profile that are really outstanding. So it really depends on your whole profile. And I would encourage you to think about the strength of your application based across all those different dimensions versus just distilling it to a standardized test score. Okay, just taking a look to see if we have other questions. And happy to stay on for a few minutes to answer any more that may come through. Okay, another question from Tammy. The TOEFL score, does it play any role in strengthening or weakening your profile? That's a great question. Most schools, of course, in the States or depending on the school that you're applying to, perhaps abroad as well, will ask for evidence of your English language ability. Most programs, I would say, will and I'm sort of thinking back to the different programs I worked for. We were pretty transparent about the score that we were ultimately looking for, like something above 100, let's say on the TOEFL. I would say it generally didn't make or break, or didn't strengthen your profile. It really was kind of a check the box. Ultimately, they want to make sure you'll succeed in the program, you'll thrive in an English language environment, in the classwork, discussions. So having a higher TOEFL score versus a lower one, not necessarily. For most programs, it's just about hitting that minimum threshold that they're looking for. So hopefully that was helpful. Okay, happy to stay on if there's another few questions. And of course, for any of you who are listening in, you're welcome to reach out to us at accepted.com. You can always email me at kara@accepted.com. It's just my first name, Kara @accepted. Um, yeah, so timing, I'm not sure about the IELTS and how that stacks up. It really depends on the school. So I'm sorry, I would encourage you to take a look at the websites of the schools that you're interested in and see if they have a minimum score. Again, so long as I think you hit that minimum score, that's usually the most important thing. Okay, everybody, I think we can probably wrap up. It's been great chatting with some of you today. If you have more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We have one last question from Gata. Is extracurricular Are extracurriculars an important part of your application? I would say it depends on the program you're applying to. Like a full-time 2-year or 1-year program, it will probably carry more weight versus like a part-time or executive MBA program. We'd love to see from applicants what makes you you outside of your academic and professional life. So think about your profile, what you did maybe as an undergrad. Were you involved in clubs and activities, things of that nature? Bring that into your CV, to other aspects of your application. So depending on the program that you're interested in, your extracurriculars can really be valuable to bring into your application. Some programs may even ask you to write about that in your essays. So it really depends on the program. But yes, in general, we love to see again what makes you you outside of the application and your academic or professional experience. So encourage you to include your community work, extracurriculars on your CV and other parts of your application, if that makes sense. Okay, everybody, I think we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much. It's been great meeting with all of you today. I wish you the best of luck as you start your research and work on your applications. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. Take care.